Have you ever done that thing where you open your banking app like you're just checking something real quick, and then you stare at the numbers like they're judging you? Like you've been working, you've been trying. You've even had those "I'm turning my life around" weeks where you cook at home, skip the random shopping, and you're basically a financial monk for 8 days straight. And then one birthday dinner, one "I deserve this," one unexpected bill that shows up like a surprise villain in a movie, and suddenly your balance is back to doing that sad little shuffle. And in the middle of all this, you're hearing the internet scream, "Just hit $1 million net worth," as if that's a button you press. As if your brain doesn't live in the real world with cravings, stress, family obligations, and that one friend who always wants to just grab something quick that somehow costs $200. I used to obsess over that number too, $1 million, like it was the final boss of adulthood. And honestly, my name is Smee, and I spend an embarrassing amount of time thinking about money, habit loops, and why some people seem to build wealth almost quietly, while others are always doing emotional parkour with their finances. Not because I'm naturally disciplined, like I'm not some robot who enjoys budgeting for fun, but because I've watched the same pattern repeat in myself and in people around me. The pattern is almost predictable. Here's the twist. The people who actually get wealthy rarely do it by chasing a million. They do it by building one boring, almost unsexy habit and protecting it like it's sacred. And the habit I want to talk about today is a $300 habit, not $300 as in spend it on something motivational. $300 as in a simple, repeatable move that becomes the spine of your financial life. Because the truth is, chasing $1 million can make you do dumb things. It can make you impatient. It can make you gamble, compare, flex, spiral, quit. But a $300 habit, that changes how you live. And if you stay with me, I think there's a high chance you'll walk away with a totally different relationship with money, less stress, more control, and that weird calm that comes when you realize your future isn't dependent on one big lucky moment. So, let's talk about why you should stop chasing the million and start building the habit. Let's just say it out loud. $1 million is a sexy number. It's clean. It's cinematic. It feels like the moment the credits roll and you finally exhale. You imagine yourself waking up on a calm morning, sunlight coming in, phone on silent, and you're just free. Like money can't touch you anymore. But here's what nobody really tells you. The $1 million goal is often a mirage. Not because it's impossible, but because of what it does to your brain. It turns money into a scoreboard. And scoreboards do something weird to people. They make you anxious. They make you rush. They make you feel behind even when you're improving. You know what chasing $1 million feels like in real life? It feels like running toward a horizon. You sprint, you sweat, you sacrifice, and the horizon politely stays where it is. And that messes with you psychologically, because you don't actually live your life at $1 million. You live your life at random Tuesdays, at grocery bills, at "should I buy this?" moments, at family weddings, at medical expenses, at the dull middle. So, when your whole motivation is tied to a distant number, your day-to-day behavior starts to feel pointless. Like, what's the point of saving $300? I'm nowhere near a million. That's where people quit. Or worse, they start accelerating. And accelerating is often a fancy word for doing things you don't fully understand, jumping into hype, taking insane risks, copying strangers' trades, buying something because it's trending, panicking when it drops, selling at the worst time, then swearing, investing is a scam. And listen, I'm not judging. This is human. It's how our brains are wired. We want fast results. We want certainty. We want a dramatic transformation story. But wealth usually doesn't arrive like a movie scene. It arrives like a quiet habit you did while nobody was clapping. So the first mindset shift is this. Stop using $1 million as your emotional fuel. Use it as a direction, sure, but don't use it as a daily motivator. Because daily motivation needs something closer, something repeatable, something you can win at this week, not in 15 years. That's where the $300 habit comes in. What the $300 habit actually is and why it's sneakily power. Okay, when I say the $300 habit, I'm not saying you must have $300 lying around effortlessly. I'm saying pick a number that's meaningful but realistic, and then build a ritual around it. For this video, we'll use $300 as the example because it's big enough to matter and small enough to be doable for a lot of people with some adjustments. If your version is $30 or $100, that's fine. The magic is not the exact number. The magic is the habit. Here's the habit in its simplest form. Every month, automatically move $300 out of your spending world and into your future world. That's it. Not if I feel like it. Not if nothing comes up. Not after I enjoy life. First, automatically, like rent. And it can go into one account you don't touch, an investing account, a retirement account, a high-yield savings account, whatever fits your stage. Now, why is this so powerful? Because it does two things at the same time. It builds money. It builds identity. That second one is the real secret. When you do this every month, you stop being someone who tries to save. You become someone who saves. You become someone who invests. You become someone who has a system. And systems beat motivation every time. Also, this is where people underestimate compounding. They think compounding is this nerdy math thing, but really, it's just momentum. Picture pushing a heavy shopping cart. The first push is the hardest. Then the wheels start moving, and suddenly it glides. Your first few months of the $300 habit feel like pushing that cart. You feel it. You notice the missing money. You get irritated. You're like, why am I doing this? I could have ordered food. But then a few things start happening. You start adjusting your lifestyle around the habit instead of constantly negotiating with yourself. Your account starts growing, which gives you psychological proof. Your stress decreases because you have a buffer. You start making better decisions because you're not desperate. And then compounding shows up like a quiet friend who was always there. Let's do a simple mental picture. Not a spreadsheet lecture, I promise. If you invest $300 a month, that's $3,600 a year. Over 10 years, that's $36,000 contributed. And with growth depending on returns, you might end up with significantly more. But honestly, the bigger win is this. You trained your life to support wealth. Most people try to build wealth while their habits keep sabotaging them. The $300 habit flips that. The real enemy isn't low income. It's leaky life. Let me tell you the most frustrating money truth I've ever learned. It's not the glamorous one about investing early. It's not the one about buying assets. It's this. A lot of people don't lose money because they're irresponsible. They lose money because their life is full of tiny leaks. And leaks are sneaky, because no single leak feels like the problem. It's the subscriptions you forgot, the small treats you buy because you're tired, the random delivery charges, the upgrades, the impulse, this will make me feel better purchases. And I get it. Life is stressful. Sometimes you just want a little comfort, But if your money is leaking in 40 different places, you never feel rich even if your income rises. That's why some people earn more and still feel broke. Their lifestyle expands in invisible ways. The $300 habit forces you to confront the leaks not through shame, but through clarity. Because once the habit is automatic, you have to live on what's left. And at first, you might feel restricted. But then something interesting happens. You start noticing what you don't actually care about. Like, you might realize you weren't buying coffee because you love coffee. You were buying coffee because you wanted a break, or a reward, or a tiny moment of peace. So you start finding cheaper ways to get the same emotional need met. And this is where I'll do a tiny digression, because it matters. Money is not just math. It's mood management. A lot of spending is really emotion buying. You're buying relief. You're buying identity. You're buying distraction. You're buying the feeling of being taken care of. So when people say just cut expenses, they're missing the point. If you cut comfort without replacing the emotional function, you'll rebound. The $300 habit works because it doesn't require you to become a different person overnight. It just creates a boundary. It says, future me gets paid first. Then you can still enjoy life. You can still have fun. But the leaking is no longer allowed to eat your future. And that's a big deal, okay? Where does the $300 go? A simple breakdown that won't make you hate me. Now, practically, you might be thinking, cool, Smee, but where am I sending this $300? Fair question. Because if you just dump it somewhere random, you might panic later and pull it out. So here's a simple way to think about it. Not as a listicle. More like Three lanes on a road. Lane 1 is stability. Lane 2 is growth. Lane 3 is capacity. Stability is, if life punches me in the face, I don't collapse. That's emergency funds, basic savings, maybe paying off high-interest debt. Growth is, my money goes to work. That's investing index funds, retirement accounts, long-term assets. Capacity is, I increase what I'm capable of earning and sustaining. That's skill building, health, tools, education, things that make you more valuable and resilient. Now, the beautiful part is, you don't have to perfectly optimize this from day one. If you have no emergency fund, maybe your first phase is stability. If you have high-interest debt, maybe you focus there first. If you're already stable, then growth becomes the main lane. But the habit stays the same. $300 leaves your spending world every month automatically. Because the habit is the engine, the exact allocation is steering. And here's the psychological trick. You don't negotiate with the habit. You can adjust the lanes, but the $300 itself is sacred. That's how you avoid quitting when life gets messy. Because life will get messy. That's not pessimism. That's literally the contract of being alive. The secret weapon. Automation because willpower is a liar. Let's talk about willpower for a second. Willpower is like that friend who hypes you up at midnight. Bro, tomorrow we start. Tomorrow we become legends. And then tomorrow comes, and willpower is asleep. So if your entire financial plan depends on you making good choices consistently, you're basically betting your future on a version of yourself that doesn't exist every day. The $300 habit works when it's automated. Because then you're not relying on mood, you're relying on infrastructure. Here's what automation does. It removes decision fatigue. It reduces emotional spending because your available money is already lower. It makes saving feel normal. It turns wealth building into background noise. And this is important. The brain adapts to the new normal fast. At first, you notice the missing $300. Then, after a few months, you stop noticing it because your lifestyle recalibrates. It's like when you move to a new house. The first week, you're bumping into things. After a month, you walk through it in the dark. Now, how do you automate without feeling trapped? You create separation. One account is for spending. One account is for the $300 habit. And the $300 account should be slightly annoying to access. Not impossible, just annoying enough that you can't impulsively dip into it. Because if it's too easy, you'll treat it like a backup wallet. And I'm telling you this because I've done it. I used to keep savings in the same bank app, same card ecosystem. And whenever I felt stressed, I'd be like, technically, I can afford it. That's not savings. That's delayed spending. Real savings has friction. Real investing has friction. So make it a little harder. Your future self will thank you. But I can't afford $300. How to find it without hating your life. All right, this is where we get real. Some people genuinely don't have $300 to spare right now. And I'm not going to insult you with, just stop buying coffee. But here's what I will say. Gently. Most people can't afford $300 because their money is already assigned to habits they never consciously chose. So the question becomes, how do we free up space? And the best way to do this isn't to go full deprivation mode. It's to run a short experiment. I like the idea of a 30-day money audit where you don't even try to be perfect, you just observe. Because awareness alone changes behavior. You start seeing patterns like, wow, I spend more when I'm tired. I spend more when I scroll. I spend more when I'm around certain people. I spend more when I'm avoiding something emotionally. And then you pick one adjustment that doesn't feel like punishment. Maybe it's reducing food delivery from 8 times a month to 4. Maybe it's pausing subscriptions for 2 months. Maybe it's negotiating a bill. Maybe it's replacing one expensive habit with a cheaper version. Or this is underrated, you can also increase income in small ways. Not start a business and become a millionaire. Calm down. I mean one additional stream that creates breathing room. It could be freelance work, tutoring, a weekend gig, selling something you don't use, taking on a short-term project. What matters is you link the extra money to the habit. So instead of extra money equals extra spending, it becomes extra money funds my future. And that shift alone honestly changes a person. Because now, you're not just working to survive, you're working to build. Now, if $300 is too big right now, start with $100 or $50. But keep the structure. Automatic, monthly, non-negotiable. Because the real victory is consistency. A smaller habit you keep is worth more than a big habit you quit. The real transformation. The $300 habit changes your decisions, not just your bank account. Here's the part that makes me want to gently grab people by the shoulders and go, please understand this. The biggest power of the $300 habit isn't the money itself. It's what the habit does to your life choices. Because once you have even a small financial base, you stop making decisions from panic. You stop tolerating things you used to tolerate. You stop saying yes to stuff that drains you just because you're scared. You can walk away from bad deals. You can leave toxic situations faster. You can take opportunities that require a little risk. You can invest in your skills without fear. You can handle emergencies without collapsing. And that's what wealth is, at its core. Options, not luxury. Not flexing. Options. I've seen people with decent income who have zero options because they have zero buffer. They're trapped in their lifestyle. And I've seen people with modest income who have surprising options because they built habits early